Okay, welcome to lesson number 4 and 5. This lesson is going to be all about parallel and perpendicular lines. Now, in year 3, we talked a little bit about this, so hopefully this will be a bit of a review. Just have a think. You heard, what can you remember about parallel lines? What can you remember about perpendicular lines? Super. So let's take a look. Let's first look at parallel lines. So parallel lines, if you imagine, these are two very, very busy people. They always walk in a straight line. They're always walking, and they'll never ever meet because, they're just so busy. And they always are alongside each other. They can be very close. They could always be very apart, but they're never going to meet. They're far too busy. And they could just carry on. They could go all across the world, but they would never ever meet. And they always stay at the same distance apart, which is important as well, because otherwise if they didn't, they might meet one day. So you can imagine this is one, they're always continuing. This is the other, always continuing. All right? Now it might be that one's shorter than the other, but what's important is that they are alongside each other and they're never going to meet. And the distance between them is always the same. So that essentially is parallel line. And we can mark them with the arrows like you can see here. Now, perpendicular lines, they are different because they do meet one time. And when they meet at a 90-degree angle, which we just learned during our last lesson is a right angle. So you can see here, maybe this was person A, they're walking, and at the same time, person B is walking in the same direction, and then bam, they meet. So you could say that they meet to the vertex, but the most important part is when they meet, they are at a right angle. So this is different than our angles that we saw, our acute angles or obtuse angles, because those lines, even though they're intersecting and they're still making and meeting at a vertex, they're not making a right angle. So any pairs of lines that we say that meets at a right angle, we can say they're perpendicular. And like we said yesterday, when you meet them, we use our kind of part of a square to mark them to show that. So here we have some shapes, and just have a look. Which ones do you see? Do you see any parallel lines? Do you see any perpendicular lines? We can say that they have a pair of lines. How many pairs of parallel lines can you see in each shape? Do we see any here? Well, let's have a look. So here, I know that this one and these ones, they're not parallel because if we kept drawing this, eventually they would probably meet around here. Same with these guys, this one and this one, they would meet around here. These are ones I've already met, making that point, that vertex. Oh, but what about these ones? If those carried on, if I drew them, those two would never meet. So already that's one pair. Oh, can you find another one? What about these ones? What if this one we drew all the way around, all the way up, and that as well? So there's a second pair. Same with these ones. Ah, third pair. Oh, very interesting. And let's see, just out of curiosity, how many sides does it have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a hexagon and it has 3 pairs of parallel lines. That's very interesting. What about our triangle here? Any parallel lines? Doesn't look like it. Have a look at the other shapes. What else do you see? A rectangle, 4 sides. How many parallel lines? We have these ones. That's 1 pair, and then those ones going vertically as well. That's 2 pairs. 4 sides, 2 pairs. We have lots of them. Let's just have a look there. And then as well, how many pairs of perpendicular lines can you see in this shape? Remember, they must meet at a right angle. So in this hexagon, do we actually have any? Oh, almost, but that's not at a perfect right angle. So no, none here. What about our triangle here? Oh, not in this triangle. Ah, but this one, look at that. That's a lovely right angle there. That's 1 pair of perpendicular lines. And our rectangle, or hopefully you remember a rectangle, we have 4 right angles. So we have 2 pairs, in fact, 4 pairs actually. 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs. Now here, question for you. I want to make a pair of perpendicular lines. So what dots should I join to make a pair of perpendicular? Remember, I want a right angle here. So hopefully you said maybe A and B and BD. If I made those would be perpendicular. Okay, let's have a look at this. What statements are false? Line BD is parallel to AC. Is that true or false? Line AB is perpendicular to BD. AB perpendicular. Are they meeting at a right angle here? True or false? Line AB is parallel to CD. Is that true or false? And line AB is not perpendicular to any other lines. Is that true or false? So this is what we said. We can prove that lines are parallel by just imagining that they continue. So these ones, they haven't been fully drawn, but if I just imagine that this would carry on here, and then this one would carry on here, well, eventually they would meet. So we know that those are not going to be parallel. See, just like that. So lesson 4 is finding and drawing perpendicular lines. Now remember, perpendicular, it meets with a right angle. So here's a little information again, and it says use a colored pencil, mark where the pairs of perpendicular lines meet with a right angle symbol. So remember, that's kind of finishing it so it looks like a square. So where here do we have our right angle? Is it this vertex, or this vertex? Hopefully you said this one. So I would just draw a little 2 perpendicular lines as well to make that square. Pretty straightforward here. This shape has more than one, so be careful there. Here, I want you to do is draw another line against this line to make a perpendicular one. So you can use a ruler. If you don't have a ruler, you can use these grids to help you. So remember, you want it at a right angle. So if you drew it down like this, that would not be correct because it's not making a right angle. Here we have a challenge. So looking at some maps. So we have a map of London and San Francisco. What differences do you see with right angles? Can you think of why maybe some lines are perpendicular, why some are parallel? Lesson 5, kind of taken all of our knowledge together. So you complete some sentences. Straight lines that never meet and stay the same distance apart are called lines. Are those parallel or perpendicular? Straight lines which meet at a right angle are called lines. Is that parallel or perpendicular? Then here, similar to what we just did, have a look at these shapes and note how many pairs are parallel, how many pairs are perpendicular. Here, Robin wants to draw some parallel lines. To draw those. Lovely. Is he correct of this one? Some true or false here, like we just did as well. And then you have this. So all you need to do here is color the pair of parallel lines in red and then perpendicular lines in blue. So different flags of different countries. And that is it. So I hope you have a good idea and a good review of what parallel and perpendicular lines are. Remember, perpendicular lines, when they meet at a right angle at 90 degrees, and then parallel lines, they'll never, ever, 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 ever meet, and they always stay the same distance apart. So have a go at that. Remember to send us examples of your work, but I'm sure you're going to do absolutely fantastic on this. All right, bye-bye.